Imagine that one momentary, almost trivial mistake by an airliner pilot doomed over 100 people to death in the most horrific manner. I've been an avid follower of air crash investigations for decades, but this one is bizarrely simple in its cause. So buckle up, guys. Now, the only technical thing you guys need to understand before we go ahead with the story is the use of ground spoilers. So the spoilers are on the upper surface of an aircraft's wing, and when they're deployed, they lift and they break the aerofoil or the flow of air, and there's a sudden drop in lift of the aircraft. So the sequence you're meant to use is that you arm the spoilers, but you do not deploy them until you are actually on the ground, for obvious reasons. If you deploy them in the air while you're near the ground, the plane will drop and smash into the ground, most likely. So the proper sequence must be observed. So now that you've got that, what doomed Air Canada Flight 621? Well, the Captain Peter Cameron Hamilton and First Officer Donald Rowland had flown on many flights before together, and on this fatal flight they actually had a discussion on when to arm the ground spoilers. They agreed they did not like arming the spoilers at the beginning of the final approach, as specified in the checklist, fearing it could lead to an inadvertent or unintended spoiler deployment. The captain preferred not arming them at all, but rather directly deploying them when they were actually on the ground. In contrast, the co-pilot preferred arming them during the landing flare as they approached the runway, but neither of their procedures were approved. Remember that the spoilers should have been armed in the pre-landing check. The cockpit voice recorder captured the whole thing. The captain, who was piloting the landing, said at the end of their spoiler discussion, "All right, give them to me on the flare. I have given up," with some humour. In saying this, he completely abandoned the pilot's usual routine, where each would use their own method when they were the pilot flying. 60 feet from the runway, the captain began to reduce power in preparation for the flare and said "OK" to the first officer. The first officer immediately deployed the spoilers on the flare, instead of just arming them. The aircraft then suddenly began to drop like a stone, and the captain, realizing what had happened, pulled back in the control column and applied full thrust to all 4 engines. The nose lifted, but the aircraft still continued to drop, hitting the runway with so much force that the number 4 engine was smashed off the wing, and also the tail smacked off the ground. Instantly realizing his terrible mistake, the first officer began apologizing to the captain for it. Tragically though, they didn't grasp the severity of the damage to the aircraft, and the captain chose to power off for a go-around. But the 4th engine loss had torn off a piece of the lower wing, and the aircraft was now trailing fuel, which promptly ignited. The first officer requested a second landing attempt on the same runway, but was told it was closed, ironically because of the debris their DC-8 had already shed. And sealing their fate, they were directed to another runway. They should have stuck it to the ground during the first landing, because 2.5 minutes after taking off in the go-around, the outboard section of the right wing above engine number 4 exploded, causing parts of the wing to actually break off. 6 seconds after this explosion, another explosion occurred in the area of number 3 engine, causing the combined engine and pylon to break off and fall to the ground in flames. 6.5 seconds after the second explosion, a third explosion occurred, destroying most of the right wing. The aircraft then went into a violent nosedive, striking the ground at a velocity of around 250 miles per hour and killing all 109 people on board in a massive fireball. Wreckage, body parts, bits of clothing, personal effects were strewn for hundreds of feet beyond the impact spot. A total disaster, and all caused by a momentary lack of judgment. So what's my key takeaway from this that applies in everybody's life? Well, there are lots of learnings, of course, in terms of sticking to protocols, and we'll put a link to the accident investigation report below. But for me, the key thing is focus. When you are taking any action that includes the possibility of severe consequences, you need to quickly do a double take on it. Visualize your action and its specific immediate implications. Verify they are the intended ones. It only takes a moment and it will become an almost unconscious habit in time, trust me. As an example, I do this all the time when working on building projects or with dangerous power tools. I have many of those. For just a moment before triggering the power on the tool, I visualize the response of the equipment. Will it kick back, or left, or right? Could the tool head work loose, etc.? Visualize the physics, brace accordingly. Same when climbing or mounting tall ladders, same trick. This simple habit saved me from any amount of grievous injuries, and I can say that to a certainty.
Here it comes.
In any case, if you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for all notifications, and of course share your thoughts in the comment section below. So until next time guys, stay safe.